Alright, now we're popping in on some Daggerfall Unity. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through the mods and basically go through each one, kind of explain what they do, and go through the settings and see what we can mess around with so you can kind of get an idea of how mods work in the game. And if you want to know how to install mods, it's pretty simple. You download the mod from the forum and you go into your Daggerfall Unity directory. You go to Daggerfall Unity Data, Streaming Assets, Mods, and inside of there you get DF Mod, which is the name of the mods. Now, you may have things like texture mods, which would go into textures. And you see all this here. And normally every mod will come with a instruction guide. The Dream mod comes with a manual. They really went all out on the Dream mod. King of Worms and his team did a really good job. So they go all out on how to install here. Tells you what to do, gives you in-game settings. As you can see, there's a bunch of added settings that they did. Post-processing was added. I don't even know about this. Pre-rendered frames. Don't know about. Never even noticed that. All right. So anyway, go out of that. So first we have Archaeologist Guild, which is a new guild that was added that allows you to go searching, do quests for archaeology's sake. And there's no settings here. It just has a description: locator, device service, language, skill, rework. Post-processing has settings. We go inside. We can enable a bunch of stuff. Smoother appearance for anti-aliasing, and you could set it up to SSA or FXAA. You can enable ambient occlusion, and I have everything enabled. I'm running a GTX 1060, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. I put motion blur on. Vignette, I'm not sure what that does. Darken towards edges of screen, I put that on. You can edit intensity. You have depth of field, eye adaptation, dithering. You have screen space reflections. Some things are experimental, so they may mess up, as this is an alpha stage, as you all know. So we have autosave mod, which is definitely useful, and you have to go in here and change the settings because they're not set by default. Autosave default is 15 minutes. I would set that to 10. Autosave limit, it does 5 limits autosaves. Save in combat, probably wouldn't do that just in case you end up getting an autosave that'll get you killed every time. On enter exit save, this is on enter and exiting any building or going out of a building, sort of like in default Oblivion and Skyrim. On rest save, I would do that, and on fast travel save, I would do that as well. Formatting, this is how it's going to look whenever you bring it up in your save menu. You can do 24-hour clock, and you can show the location name of where you are. So I have both of those selected. Calendar, you can do it however you want. I'm going to do, let's see, month, day, year. Yeah, I'm going to do it like that. Alright, so birds in Daggerfall. This is where you can see birds flying and stuff like that. And you could set how many birds you want. Chances of them appearing, blah, blah, blah. Kept most of the stuff basic. Distant terrain, you can set that. Terrain transitions. Not sure what that does. Probably does something about rendering. Fade in the skybox. That allows distant terrain to fade in so it looks more natural. Sea reflections, so you get real-time reflections, which I have, which will reflect water. You get good water reflection, and you can have the sea, when you're near the sea, it'll reflect, the terrain. Improved terrain, improves height map, higher mountains, and indicate locations as bright spots on terrain texture. I don't know what that does. Convenient clock. This one you can change. I actually didn't go into here before to change the settings. So give me 1 second. I'm getting a phone call. Let's see here. Alright, I'm back. So, convenient clock. What I had it set as was circle with clock. and that's okay, but I kind of would rather do this: time, weekday, day, and text. So to give you the time of the day, it'll give you the weekday that you're in, the day, and the text according to the game's calendars. Daggerfall world map doesn't have settings, but it makes a nice, pretty world map. Enhanced sky, you can do settings, sun flare. Let's turn that on. Cloud quality all the way up. Real grass, says a whole bunch of stuff. Noise spread, make more grass. Do density. This grass colors, your shaders. Let's do mesh instead of billboard. Always enabled. Noise spread, desert density. You could put flowers, stones, flying insects. Let's turn that on. Why not? Detail distance. Let's go a little bit further out. Texture override. I'm not going to do that. Okay. Vibrant wind. This will make the wind blow in certain directions, and grass objects will be bent over by the wind. And that, of course, works with the real grass mod. So we're looking here. What do we got? Interpolation. What does that mean? How the values for each weather are chosen. Lerp. What does lerp mean? Smooth step. Center. Causer. I don't know what that means. I'm just going to go with the default. Dream cinematics. That's the new, and that was really impressive, the way that they redid the 400 years after Tiber Septim's reign. They actually redid that graphically and audibly. It's just pretty awesome, because the original was just trash. And they do a new intro whenever you turn the game on. HUD and menu, obviously redone. Mods, AI 8X. This is what I'm assuming mobs AI turns the AI up. Sound mods increase, better sound, better music, NPCs. Commoners, these are all improved sprites and stuff like that. The game sprites, textures. Basically revamps the entire game to make it look so much better. It's a huge mod. Lot like 1.5 gigs, but really increases the game. Like, makes it so much better. Hand painted models, puts in some 3D statics, makes it look a lot better than a lot of the billboard stuff that was in the original game. Improved lighting, that's interiors, so you can actually do intensities, turn settings on and off. You can do shadows, flickering lights, player torches, stuff like that. Hand painted models, buildings, this is another upgraded buildings. This is treasures, where you have the treasures that you can pick up instead of it being a little billboard 2D things, sprite things. It actually is a 3D model that you can see on the ground. Persistent dungeons, which is probably one of the best mods to have, because the dungeons normally reset every time after you go into them. So as soon as you leave a dungeon and you come back in, it's completely reset. There's no saving of what's going on. So what I would do for this, though, is ignore the main quest dungeons, because you probably can end up... I ended up bugging out the game by having this set. It wasn't this that I had set. I had a smaller random dungeon set. And one of the main dungeons in the game is a random dungeon. When you get to a certain point, you have to go to a random dungeon. And that dungeon was set to a smaller random dungeon instead of it being much bigger, and that ended up breaking it. So I broke the entire quest line, because you can't really reset it. But I would ignore main quest dungeons just in case something goes wrong. You don't want to have it persistent and you can't, fix whatever is messed up. Corpse decay time, number of days before corpses decay. Obviously, this makes the corpses disappear in the dungeon. Number of days to track the dungeon. If you do 0, it will, I guess, what is this, 360 days? Let's set it to 300 days, almost a year's worth of time to remember that a dungeon was visited. Use this for temp storage, store dungeon data, temporary files, because it has to store files so that it knows that the dungeon was explored. tedious travel. I turned this off. What tedious travel does is it allows you to, instead of fast travel, it allows you to travel at an increased pace throughout the world. So the idea is to increase immersion. So you get on your horse and you go through the world and you can watch it as it goes. It's sort of like watching a flight path in WoW, where you're sitting there watching it. And at first I thought it was kind of cool, but then I was kind of like, it's I'm not sure. It's just that the world in Daggerfall is just too randomized for it to work the way I want it to. Like, if there are things that could happen, or encounters and stuff like that, or dungeons you could find on the way there, that would be pretty cool. Sometimes you'll run through towns when you do this, but for the most part, it's not really worth it, because you're basically just sitting there watching it. So I turned that off. Loading screen, that's pretty good. That's the one that allows you to do the Oblivion style loading screen. So I put dungeons, buildings, press any key after to load up. You get the death text and the end text instead of the video at the end. You can do that. I got rid of the video where it just pops up a screen and says, "You died, try again." Here's fonts here, I guess. I'm not sure which one. So you can use Oblivion fonts. Oh, that's cool. Let's change it. Oblivion, okay. Oblivion, alright. So we can save that. Is dynamic. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? I don't know. Let's enable it and see what happens. Okay, 2 settings, huh? There you go. Put some more Oblivion on there. Enemy previews, it'll do that. Put enemies in the foreground. And there was one part where you could select Oblivion style. You get level percent here too, which is pretty cool because normally you have no idea how close you are to the next level in this game. Where's it at? Disable video on the death screen. This is where you can disable it, so you don't have to worry about the video playing with the stupid video that plays every time. Where's the one that lets you do the Oblivion style? I don't see it, and I'm not going to sit here and wait to try to find it. Anyway, whatever. Let's keep going. Mountains and hills. This one makes the land more hilly and mountainy, so you got big hills, big mountains you can go up. Traveling on your horse, I've done that a couple times and gotten to different towns. It takes a long time, and part of what people are trying to do with Daggerfall Unity is create more randomized content outside the towns. And if you could just imagine for a second with the landmass that Daggerfall has, which is apparently the size of Great Britain in total landmass size, with all the random content, with all the random generated landscape that's outside of each town. If you could imagine all of that being populated with mobs and locations and things to do and just things you could just pop up on, if you could imagine a game like that, it would be incredible. And that's one thing that I believe that this team is working towards, and is just a bunch of people coming together and trying to make a game like that. And that's part of that is the Warm Ashes mod is part of that. In Warm Ashes, these things will happen outside of dungeons and towns where you may be attacked, or there may be bandits there, or something may happen. You never know what could happen, stuff like that. Real-time reflections. This, of course, is reflections in water, or you can see the landscape and the reflection. Roleplay realism is where you have to actually cock your arrow back, depending on the length of the pull, so it's how long you hold it. That tells you how much damage you do. So it's more like, real archery, like in Skyrim. Bed sleeping, you actually have to click on a bed. You don't just go into an inn and hit rest. Trees of Daggerfall normally was something that was included, but yeah, I think it's broken now and it has to be recreated because it isn't working anymore. But it puts 3D trees in, and it looks pretty damn cool. Anyways, I'm getting another phone call, so I'm going to cut this video off right now. That's a description of the mods I have installed. If you install these mods and play Daggerfall, it is like a completely new experience. Combat mods people are working on, trying to do like weapon kickback, like in Skyrim, how you hit a shield and it kicks back. There are people trying to work on that. Stuff like that's going on. Hopefully we'll get more stuff like that coming down the pipeline. When I started monitoring this project, they didn't even have magic implemented. They didn't have a lot of stuff implemented, but now we're at a full game you can actually play through. So hopefully in the future it'll get better and better and better, and that's fantastic in my opinion. Alright guys, I'll see you later.